So with structures, we can define custom data types. In computer science, we call this abstract data type or ADT. Another common term is abstraction, which is a general model of something. So we can have an abstraction for a customer, a movie, a rental, and so on. These are just fancy computer science terms for something really simple, a custom data type. So without a structure, if you want to represent the concept of a movie, we have to declare separate variables like string title and integer release year and so on. And that means with this approach, we have to pass all these variables as arguments to our functions. So if you have a function for displaying a movie, that function should take all these values as arguments. So potentially we could end up with functions with so many parameters. This is where structures come to the rescue. Using a structure, we can put all these related variables inside a unit, inside a container. So let's see how we can use a structure to define a container called movie. We start with the struct keyword, then we give our structure or custom data type a name. And here we use the Pascal naming convention. Remember Pascal case? So we capitalize the first letter of every word, okay? So we call this movie. And then we move these variables up here. Now note that I've defined this structure outside of our main function, so we can reuse it in multiple functions, okay? Now also note that with this definition, we are not allocating any memory for these variables. We're simply telling the compiler that a movie structure consists of these variables. Now we can use this structure just like any other data types. So just like we can declare an integer, we can also declare a movie and call this movie. Now, when this line is executed, the compiler is going to allocate space for these two variables, okay? Now we refer to this variable as an object. An object means an instance of a type. So here we have an object, and now we can access the members of this object using the dot operator. So when we type a dot, we can see all the members of this movie object. So we can set the title to Terminator. You probably know it's my favorite movie. And the release year, I don't know, was it 1984 or what? So we set the members of this movie object. Now, if we try to print this movie, we get a compilation error referencing this operator. Do you remember what we call this? The stream insertion operator. Now, this operator has been implemented for the built-in types in C++, like integer, string, and so on. That is why we can pass a number or a string here. But the compiler doesn't know how to send a movie object to the output stream. Now, this is something we can implement in the future. But for now, if we want to print these variables or these members of the movie object, we have to do something like this. We can add a label like title, followed by movie.title. And then we can add endl. And on the next line, we can print release year and reference movie.releaseYear, okay? Now take a look. Here's what we get, okay? Now here's your exercise for this lesson. I want you to define a structure for representing customers. Each customer should have 3 attributes, an ID, which is a number, as well as a name and an email, which are strings. Then ask the user for these values, store them in a customer object, and then print the result. All right, let's start with the struct keyword. We're going to call this customer with a capital C, follow the Pascal naming convention. Here we need 3 variables, integer ID, string name, and email. Okay, now that we have this definition, we can create a customer object. Next, we use cin to read these values. So first we ask the user for the ID. Then we use cin to read that value into customer.id. Now we repeat with other attributes. So next we read customer's name. And finally, we read the email. Customer.email. Okay? Now at the end, we print these values. So for simplicity, I'm just going to print the name and the rest is exactly the same. So customer.name. Now take a look. So ID is 1, name is Mosh, and email is programmingwithmosh@gmail.com. And here's the result. Beautiful.